My name's Danny, 44 years old, systems administrator, Dallas, Texas. I met Suzanne 8 years ago at a Christmas party I didn't want to attend. She was divorced, wore her exhaustion like perfume. 2 boys from her first marriage. Jacob was 12, Cody was 9. Jacob had that tired look you usually see in men who've seen too much war. Always staring at the floor, like he was already halfway out the door. Cody was sweeter, quieter. He still held his mother's hand when they crossed a parking lot. I remember thinking, I could help here. I could bring some steadiness into this. We moved in together a year later. Not because of love, not entirely. It was convenience at first. Financial sense. 2 rents in different zip codes cost more than a mortgage in one house on the edge of town. So we signed the deed together, opened a joint account, agreed to split everything 50-50ths. That's not how it played out. Suzanne worked part-time. She said she wanted to be more present for the boys, especially with their father out of the picture. And I agreed. That meant groceries came out of my pocket. So did gas, insurance, medical bills, and every school fee that slid across our kitchen counter. When Jacob needed braces, I paid. When Cody joined that expensive robotics team, I wrote the check. Suzanne would look at me with soft eyes and say, "We'll settle it later." We never did. I wasn't trying to replace anyone. I knew they had a father, technically, but he was a ghost. Called on birthdays sometimes. Sent packages that looked like they were ordered 5 minutes before the party. A drone once. A jersey still with the tags on it. Never a call to ask how school was going. Never a visit when Jacob injured his shoulder at practice. Never an offer to split anything. But they still called him Dad. Me? I was just Danny. I didn't fight it. I didn't push. I just showed up. Every game, every dentist appointment, every parent-teacher night when their actual father couldn't be bothered to RSVP. I planned the vacations, booked the hotels, coordinated school holidays around work deadlines so they wouldn't miss a summer trip. Galveston, Corpus Christi, once even Florida. I'd make sure there was something for everyone. Water parks for Cody, fishing for Jacob. Suzanne liked beach massages and frozen drinks, so I made sure those were there too. They never said thank you. Not once. I told myself they were just young. Teenagers don't appreciate anything. I believed that lie longer than I should have. The cracks started early. Jacob would roll his eyes every time I gave advice. Cody began copying him. I'd say, "Hey bud, rinse your plate." And Cody would say, "You're not the boss of me." Suzanne would laugh it off. "They're just being silly," she'd say. "Don't take it so personally." I tried. God, I tried not to. I kept showing up. There was one night, maybe 2 years in, I took Jacob to practice and he sat in the car the entire ride home, earphones in, arms crossed. When I asked what was wrong, he said, "I just want Dad to be there. Not you." Just like that. No venom. Just fact. I pulled into the driveway and sat in the truck after he went inside. 30 minutes. No music. No engine. Just silence. Suzanne said I was reading too much into it. "He's a teenager, Danny. You know how they are." But I didn't know. I had no kids of my own. I just had hers. And they wanted nothing from me except my wallet and my silence. The joint account? That became my account. Suzanne's checks went into her private one. The joint one? I filled it. I fed it. Every autopay and recurring charge flowed from my end. Mortgage. Cell plans. Internet. Car insurance. Groceries. You name it. They lived off my presence and treated me like I was intruding. There was one Christmas I'll never forget. I built Cody's new desk from scratch. Spent hours in the garage sweating over instructions written in some cursed language. When he walked in and saw it, he said, "Cool," and left. Jacob unwrapped the expensive hoodie he begged for, the one his dad promised but never delivered, and didn't say a word. Not to me. Not even to Suzanne. But when their father called later that night, Jacob was all smiles. Cody giggled. They put him on speakerphone like he was Santa Claus. I stood there washing dishes while they laughed like they belonged to someone else. Suzanne kissed my cheek. "You made this happen," she whispered. But even then I knew. I had built a home where I wasn't welcome. Things didn't improve. They calcified, hardened. The boys started treating me like furniture. Present, functional, silent. Jacob would walk past me without a word. Cody started calling me the guy. As in, is the guy coming to the game? Not Danny. Not stepdad. Not anything that acknowledged what I gave. And Suzanne. She stopped noticing. Or pretended not to. She'd laugh when they joked at my expense. Once, Jacob told her at the dinner table, "You should have just married Dad again. At least he wasn't boring." She smiled into her wineglass. Said nothing. That was the beginning of the end, I think. I remember a specific night, maybe 5 years in. Jacob left his gym bag in the living room. It stunk, like sweat and mud and something worse. I asked him politely to pick it up. He ignored me. Suzanne walked in. He looked at her and said, "Do I have to?" She nodded. Only then did he move. Not because I asked, but because she repeated it. That told me everything I needed to know. I was a background character in my own life. Provider without presence. A ghost with a checkbook. I stopped going to their games. Suzanne noticed once, asked why. I told her I had work. She didn't press. She never pressed. I stopped cooking dinner on weekends. They ordered takeout. Suzanne didn't mention it. I watched from the hallway once as they ate pizza and laughed at a show I used to watch with them. My spot on the couch empty. There was a birthday, Jacob's 17th. I offered to take him and his friends go-karting. He said, "Don't make it weird." Said his dad was taking him instead. Suzanne looked away when he said it. I paid for the cake anyway. There's a kind of erosion that happens when you're treated like this. Not all at once. Slowly. A little piece of yourself breaks off each time you're ignored, dismissed, laughed at, used. And eventually there's not much left to lose. Just clarity. I gave everything to a family that saw me as temporary. I held up the weight of their world while they asked when I'd leave. And one night, one cold, stupid night, I heard Jacob say exactly what I feared. Loud, proud, with his mother sitting beside him. "He's just Mom's crutch. She'll dump him when she's done." And Suzanne? She laughed. I was standing just outside the hallway when I heard it. The door was cracked open, just enough for the light to spill out into the dark. Jacob's voice was unmistakable. Too sharp for his age, too confident in cruelty. He was talking to Cody. I don't remember what led up to it. Doesn't matter. Because the line was so clean, so precise. It pierced through every defense I'd spent years building. "He's just Mom's crutch. She'll dump him when she's done." And then Suzanne's laugh. Soft, real, not forced, not sarcastic. The kind of laugh you give when the truth's too good to deny. She didn't say, "That's not fair." She didn't say, "He's done everything for us." She didn't say, "Enough." She giggled, let it pass like wind through an open window. And that was the last nail. I didn't storm in, didn't yell, didn't throw anything. I just turned around, walked down the hall, sat on the edge of our bed. My bed, really, I'd paid for the frame, the mattress, the sheets, even the goddamn nightstand. I sat there staring at the floor and felt nothing. No anger, no betrayal, just something slow and clean sliding into place. Clarity. There's a stillness that hits you when you finally understand the lie you've been living. Not the loud kind, not fire, not rage. There's a quiet tightening, like a fist closing around your spine. I knew I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to argue my worth with people who had already decided it. I was going to disappear. Not from the planet, just from them. I gave it 2 more days. Not to plan, just to move. Quietly. Deliberately. I started with the joint account. The same one I'd been feeding every month like it was a starving pet. Logged in, drained my half, and removed my name. Closed the autopays. Canceled the grocery card. Mortgage, utilities, school lunches, streaming apps, phone lines, all rerouted. The accounts were in my name. Always had been. They just never noticed because they never had to. Then the real work began. Netflix. Canceled. Cody would find out first. He was always the one up late, watching cartoons he said he was too old for. Hulu gone. Amazon Prime, revoked. Uber Eats. No payment method on file. Spotify downgraded to free ads and all. The cell phones were next. The family plan had been under my name since the beginning. I logged in and cut the lines. Left mine. Removed theirs. Then the Wi-Fi. Router unplugged. SP account closed. Tech scheduled to pick up the equipment later that week. I cleared my data from every shared device. TV, tablets, home computer. Anything with my login erased. Passwords changed. Two-factor authentication. New phone number. Locked down. Next came the insurance. Health, dental, vision. Suzanne was on my employer's plan, a courtesy, she used to say. I called HR. Told them to take her off at the end of the month. No explanation needed. They asked, "Are you sure?" I said, "More than I've ever been about anything." After that, I started packing. Not all at once. Piece by piece. A few shirts. My tools. Important documents. Laptop. Chargers. Socks. The coffee machine I bought, the good one, the one that made mornings bearable. I boxed it carefully. They'd never touched it anyway. Thought it was too complicated. I rented a storage unit that night. Moved some things over. Quietly. They were asleep. Nobody noticed. And then, on the second morning, I waited. Just long enough for them to feel the shift. The bank called first. Fraud alert. Unusual activity on the joint account. Suzanne tried to log in. Access denied. She called me. I didn't answer. Then Jacob. His card declined at the coffee shop he liked to walk to after school. He texted, "What the hell? My card isn't working." I ignored it. Cody came downstairs, tried to turn on Netflix. Blank screen. Error. Payment method invalid. I heard him sigh, then call for his mom. She came into the room. I stood at the sink, rinsing my coffee mug. Watching her fumble with the remote like that would fix it. Then the phones started dying. One by one. No signal. No data. No connection. I watched Jacob wave his in the air like a torch. "Is the Wi-Fi out or something?" "No," I said. "It's off." They looked at me. "What?" Suzanne asked. "It's off. I canceled it." "You what?" "I canceled the Wi-Fi, the phones, the accounts, all of it, everything I paid for." She stared like I'd confessed to arson. "You can't just... Why would you do that?" I finished my coffee, set the mug down, turned toward her. "Because I'm done." She blinked. "Done with what?" I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "With pretending this is a family." Jacob laughed. That same dry, mocking sound he always used when he didn't understand something. "Wow, dramatic much?" he said. "You're seriously flipping out over a joke?" I looked at him. Just looked. And in that moment I saw it, the rot, the inheritance of cruelty. His father's absence had made him vicious, and his mother's silence had made him entitled. He was the perfect storm of neglect and permission, and he didn't even know it. "This isn't about a joke," I said. "Oh my God," Suzanne muttered. "Is this about what he said the other night? You mean when he called me your crutch? When you laughed?" She went pale. It was nothing. Jesus, Danny, they're kids. You're overreacting." I shook my head. "No. I'm finally reacting exactly as I should have years ago." Cody was sitting on the couch, confused. Too young to understand all of it, but old enough to feel the floor shifting. "You're leaving?" he asked. I looked at him. Really looked. There was fear in his eyes, but not sadness. Not love. Just panic. The kind that comes when your comfort starts to vanish. "I'm leaving," I said. "Today." Suzanne stepped forward. "Wait, you can't just... What about the mortgage? The bills?" I shrugged. "They're yours now. You're a team. Figure it out together." That's what I left on the kitchen table. A note. Just that one line, written in my neatest handwriting. "You're a team now. Figure it out together." No apologies. No explanations. Just truth. I packed the rest of my things into the truck. Didn't slam a door. Didn't break a single plate. Left the rooms exactly as I found them, minus the man who kept them warm. When I pulled out of the driveway, no one came outside. Suzanne called 12 times that day. Left messages, then voice notes, then texts that bounced between confusion and fury. Where are you? We need to talk. You're being ridiculous. Please, Danny. Please come home. I didn't answer, because that place wasn't home. It was a machine I'd been fueling. And the moment I stopped, it died. Within 2 weeks, everything began to crumble. Cody quit robotics. Jacob started working part-time. Suzanne sold her jewelry, listed the house, said she couldn't keep up with the payments. She cried in voicemails, said she understood now, said she missed me. But understanding comes too late when you've laughed at the man who held you upright. They tried to make me the villain. The boys said I abandoned them. Suzanne told her sister I'd snapped. But I didn't snap. I opened my eyes. And once I did, I never closed them again. I only took what was mine. That's the part they never mention when they tell their version of it. Not a cent more. Not a keepsake, not a stolen thing. I walked through that house like a man tracing the outline of his own absence. My laptop, my tools, my clothes, the coffee machine I loved. The one Suzanne always said was too strong. Everything else? I left it. I wanted no spoils from that war. The night I packed, the house was silent. No one woke up. No questions, no protests. Just me and cardboard boxes and the heavy, deliberate scrape of things being put back in my possession. I didn't need help. I didn't want it. I loaded the truck one trip at a time. 6, maybe 7 in total. I didn't count. I just moved. And when it was done, I stood in the living room, the place I had once imagined Christmases, game nights, homecomings, and I wrote the note. Plain white paper. Blue ink. You're a team now. Figure it out together. Then I left. Not to a motel. Not to a friend's couch. I had planned ahead, rented a small studio across town. No windows, bare walls. But it was mine. The lease was under my name alone. No one else's keys in the bowl by the door. No extra toothbrushes, no shared anything. Just silence. And after 8 years of someone else's noise, that silence was a blessing. The first 24 hours were quiet. Then the collapse began. It started with the bank. I'd forgotten how loud silence could be when paired with panic. 12 missed calls from Suzanne. 3 voicemails. The first was confusion. The second was anger. The third was begging. What happened? Where are you? The joint account's empty, they said it was closed. Danny, talk to me. I didn't. Then came the messages from the boys. Jacob was furious. Why is my card declined? I had money on there. What the hell did you do? Cody was more restrained. Hey, the Wi-Fi's not working and Mom's freaking out. Did something happen? I ignored them both. That night I sat in the studio. Ate a sandwich I made myself. The quiet was disorienting. Not oppressive, just new. I lay on the mattress I dragged up the stairs, stared at the ceiling, and waited for the next tremor. Came the next day. Suzanne called while I was at work. Again. I didn't answer. This time, she left a message that started with "We need to talk" and ended with, "I can't believe you're doing this to us." To us. That's how she framed it. Not what they did to me. Not the years of disrespect, mockery, dismissal. Just what I was doing. What I was breaking. As if I hadn't been the only one trying to hold it together. Then the emails started. Her tone shifted. Less venom, more desperation. The mortgage had bounced. The auto payments failed. Jacob's school lunch card was empty. Cody's tablet had lost access to everything. She listed it all like items on a crime scene inventory. Evidence of abandonment. And maybe it was. But it wasn't my crime. It was theirs. Because here's the truth. They didn't fall apart because I left. They fell apart because they had built everything on my back. And assumed I'd never stop carrying it. The third day, Suzanne showed up at my office. I saw her through the glass doors. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Face set like stone. She stood in the lobby, arms crossed, phone clutched like a lifeline. I didn't go out to meet her. I watched as she paced for 10 minutes, then finally left. The receptionist gave me a look. I said nothing. That night, a letter slid under the studio door. Her handwriting, still familiar. It read, "I don't know what to say. The boys are scared. Jacob started working part-time. Cody won't talk to me. I know you're angry, but please don't punish them for my mistakes." I read it twice. Then I folded it, placed it in the drawer, and went back to making dinner. By the end of the week, the house was listed online. The photos still showed my furniture, my desk, the kitchen I'd remodeled. But the price was desperate. The mortgage was too high for her alone. I knew that from the beginning. That's why I covered more than half. That's why the house stood as long as it did, because I propped it up. And now, it was caving in. Jacob sent one final message: "You could have talked to us. You didn't have to vanish like some coward." I didn't reply, but I saved the message, because it said everything. He still didn't understand. None of them did. In his eyes, I was the problem. My silence was the offense. Not his contempt. Not Suzanne's laughter. Not the years of taking without thanks. No, to them, my crime was refusing to bleed anymore. Cody stopped messaging. He was younger, but not stupid. I think he understood in his own quiet way. He never said sorry. Never reached out again. But he didn't curse me either. That was enough. And Suzanne? She kept trying. Voice notes. Long emails. Apologies that didn't sound like apologies. I was tired. You know that. I was trying to keep the peace. You know how Jacob is. He doesn't mean half of what he says. I laughed because I was nervous, not because I agreed. I didn't know you felt that way, but she did. They all did. They just didn't think I'd leave. They assumed I needed them more than they needed me, that I was trapped by guilt, by love, by obligation. They were wrong. I still had the texts from when we first moved in. Her saying things like, "We're lucky to have you," or, "I don't know what I'd do without you." Somewhere along the way, that turned into, "I expect you to do this." And finally, into, "You're just her crutch." I scrolled through them once, sitting in my new place, watched the arc of my own erasure, line by line. I wasn't bitter. Not then. Just hollow. But the hollowness wasn't empty. It was clean, like a wound finally allowed to breathe. Weeks passed. The house sold. Suzanne moved into a smaller place. Jacob kept working. Cody changed schools. I kept hearing about it from mutual acquaintances. Nobody asked for my side. Nobody wanted to know why. Because they already knew. Everyone saw how I gave. They just didn't think it mattered if I was thanked for it. And now they felt the cost. They'd lived off the benefits of my presence. The quiet Wi-Fi, the full fridge, the endless rides, the roof that didn't leak. And when it vanished, so did their security. Suzanne's sister called me once. Left a voicemail. "She's broken, Danny. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but this isn't it." I deleted the message. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just done paying the toll for a road that never led home. That's the thing about responsibility. If you demand it from someone without giving them respect, it becomes a leash. And when that person finally cuts the line, you fall. Every man has a breaking point. Mine wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was a door closing at 6:17 a.m. The morning after a laugh that should have never happened. It was the sound of my truck rolling down the driveway, unnoticed. It was a final payment declined. A message read but unanswered. A silence that echoed longer than any apology. And now I live alone. I work remotely. I travel when I want. I wake up without walking on eggshells. I don't explain myself anymore. I don't carry anyone else's weight. Sometimes I see them around town. Suzanne in line at the pharmacy. Jacob at the gas station. Cody walking out of a grocery store. They glance at me unsure. Sometimes they nod. Sometimes they look away. I look right through them. Not because I hate them. Because they're strangers now. Just like I always was to them. Now I live alone. Not lonely. Alone. There's a difference. In the silence, there's space. In the absence of voices calling for rides, money, help, there's breath. I cook what I want, Sleep when I want. The TV remote is always where I left it. My toothbrush doesn't disappear. No one uses my coffee beans or leaves wet towels on the floor. It's quiet here. Not the kind of quiet that comes from avoidance, but the kind that means peace. It's been 10 months since I left. Not a full year. But in that span, I've become someone else. Or maybe I've just stopped pretending to be the version they needed me to be. At work, I took on more travel. Out of state, sometimes out of country. I say yes to new projects now. When I was with them, I used to say no. Always had to be home. Always needed to be present. To drive someone, fix something, pick up the slack. Now I chase whatever interests me. I met someone too. Lauren. She's quiet. Thoughtful. No kids. No past she drags behind her like a chain. We met at a conference in Seattle, talked over lunch, then drinks, then stayed in touch. She doesn't ask for anything. We split every bill. She never assumes. Never presumes. Never once has she called me too serious for not laughing when people cross a line. She knows about Suzanne. About the boys. I told her piece by piece over the course of weeks. I expected her to flinch or ask what I did wrong. She didn't. She listened. She nodded. Then she said, "I'm sorry no one saw what you gave." That was it. That one sentence said more than 8 years of Suzanne's apologies. I didn't move in with Lauren. We didn't try to merge our lives like melting wax. We just coexist. 2 people. 2 spaces. Mutual respect. That's enough. More than enough. Sometimes I think about Cody. He'd be in his senior year now. Teen. Maybe applying to colleges. Or maybe working. I don't know. I stopped checking the school website. I stopped listening for news through mutual friends. I had to. The first few months after I left, I caught myself searching his name online. Nothing ever came up. Jacob? I've seen him twice. Once at the gas station. He was pumping diesel into a delivery van. Had a uniform shirt on, name patch crooked. He looked tired. Not older, just worn. Like the world had finally started to press against him the way it used to press against me. He saw me. Didn't speak. I nodded. Just once. He looked down. That was the end of it. The second time I saw him at the grocery store. He was in the snack aisle, holding a cheap bag of popcorn and a bottle of off-brand soda. He looked up, made eye contact, then quickly turned and walked away. It didn't hurt. It just confirmed everything. They didn't want a father. They wanted a sponsor, a silent backbone, a man who paid and stayed quiet and never asked for respect in return. And when I refused to be that, they crumbled. I don't wish them harm. I don't hope they suffer. But I also don't mourn them. That version of my life is over. Buried. I don't keep pictures. I don't replay memories. Even the good ones have been rewritten by what came after. A smile from Cody at a beachside burger shack means less when I remember he called me the guy who pays for stuff 2 weeks later. A hug from Jacob after his first home run fades when I remember the way he mocked me behind a closed door. And Suzanne, her hands on my shoulders the night I stayed up fixing the dishwasher. I can still feel her grip. Gentle. Grateful. But it turns sour when I remember the sound of her laugh when her son called me her crutch. No moment exists in isolation. That's the problem. Every memory is a shadow cast by the truth. And the truth is this. I was only ever as valuable to them as what I could provide. I know what people will say. They were just kids. You took it too personally. You could have talked it out. But here's what those people don't understand. I did talk. For years. I expressed my feelings. I explained how it felt to be ignored. I asked for support. I begged for recognition. I tried. Again and again. Quietly. Respectfully. And I was dismissed. Told I was too sensitive. Told to suck it up. Told they'll come around. Told you're not their real dad, Danny. It's different. So I waited. I waited through the eye rolls. Through the silence. Through the dinners where I was invisible. Through the birthdays where my gifts were shrugged at and their father's forgotten texts were treated like gospel. I waited. And all it taught them was that I'd never leave. Until I did. And now they live with that silence. Not because I want to hurt them, But because some lessons only take root in absence. They had a man who drove them, fed them, clothed them, showed up for them. A man who paid for everything and never once used it as leverage. A man who learned their favorite meals, their quirks, their needs. And they laughed at him. They dismissed him. They told themselves he'd always be there, because of course he would be, until he wasn't. And now Jacob works 2 jobs and skips college. Cody moved with his mother to a 2-bedroom rental where the internet's never quite stable. Suzanne's new car was repossessed last spring. They blame me. Of course they do. Because it's easier to hate the man who left than to reckon with why he had to. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't need it. I didn't leave for revenge. I left to survive. People talk about emotional abuse like it only comes in shouting matches or bruises. But they forget the 1,000 cuts of disregard. The wounds that come from silence, from being treated like furniture. Present, useful, but ultimately invisible. That's what they did to me. And I let them. Until I didn't. So now, here's what I ask. Was I wrong? Was I wrong to walk away from a family that never once held me in the light? Was I wrong to turn off the faucet when all they did was drink without thanks? Was I wrong to ask for something simple, respect, and to leave when it never came? Would you have stayed? Would you have sat at that dinner table one more time, watching a boy who lives off your labor call you nothing, while the woman you supported smiled into her wineglass? Would you have paid the next bill? Would you have packed their lunches? Would you have built the life, brick by brick, just to be told it was never yours to claim? They wanted me to be proud of my sacrifices, to wear them like a badge. But a badge is useless if it's pinned to someone else's name. So I took it off. And I left. And now I am whole. Scarred, yes, but whole.